Live from WRAL News headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
We have a level 1 risk for severe storms in our northern counties for this evening. I'll walk you through the timeline.
And there are just 2 days left for students at St. Augustine's before they have to move off campus. The disappointment from students as the school moves to remote learning in its fight to maintain its accreditation.
Party crashers are still alive on campus at NC State. You know, the men's and women's teams in historic ground right now, both making the Final Four together for the first time ever. So woke up, it's April 1st. I'm like, hey, this is not a joke.
It's not
this
a joke.
Is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's good stuff going on. I'm Jeff Hogan. It's great to have you with us here.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. Yeah, I watched that game last night, obviously. And in the first half, the Duke was taking the lead. And so I was like, well, I don't know how this is going to go. But then they came back. Yeah. They won. I think people are still partying this morning. I would not be surprised. We're also partying because it's going to be another 80-something degree day. Meteorologist Elizabeth Carter with what we can expect.
Yeah, pretty crazy. But of course, when we see these warm temperatures during the spring, it often leads to some severe storms. And that's a possibility, especially closer to Roanoke Rapids. That's where the models are really showing a better chance. But we will have a boundary that drifts southward. And so along that Virginia line, we could see some isolated wind damage, hail, or some brief heavy rain. We take a look at where that boundary is right now. It's pretty far to the north, but there are some thunderstorms along it now, and it will sink southward. We can watch that as we get through the day today. There's some cloud cover out there, a little bit more than what we saw over the weekend. It'll be partly to mostly cloudy. And then there's that line of thunderstorms that starts to drop down on us, but it's going to be fairly late before it arrives. There's 8 p.m. We get to, say, 9, 10 o'clock. We begin to see some of that, and it's really out of here by, say, midnight, 1 o'clock, and affects mainly our northeastern counties, but couldn't rule it out for some of our other northern counties. Speaking of northern counties, here's a look at Roxborough with a good bit of cloud cover. We're seeing that sunshine trying to burn through some of those clouds in spots. 61 in the Triangle. We have a southwest wind keeping things warm today. Looking at low 50s near the Virginia line, but everybody else upper 50s to mid 60s. Hour by hour, mid 70s at lunchtime. We'll hit 85 again this afternoon. It's not quite a record. Our record for today is 89. We become a good bit more unsettled midweek, and I'll show you when the colder air moves back in. Coming up. Brett?
Thanks, Elizabeth. Let's take a look at traffic. It is 8:02 on your Monday morning. I'm Brett Neeson for Brian Schrader. Got a couple of crashes to tell you about that are causing some pretty big backups. So there's one on 40 near Wade Avenue. It has improved a little bit here in the last few minutes. A little bit of green now there as you approach Wade, but backed up past a couple of those other exits there. A little bit of red on our sensors. Give yourself still probably 5-10 extra minutes if you have to use 40 westbound in that area. New crash to tell you about is off of Smithfield Road near Main Street in Knightdale. Not seeing any delays on the sensors, but it is something that I'm keeping an eye on, and I'll let you know if any backups there start to form because of that particular crash. A wider look at Raleigh, just a 1-minute delay coming in from the Knightdale area after that earlier crash on 87 near the Beltline that has now cleared. 10 minutes still coming in from Wake Forest, so definitely give yourself some extra time if you're coming on US 1 southbound from the northern side of Wake County. Over in Durham, the Durham Freeway, delay free in both directions. It's been like that all morning long, and I'll continue to let you know if it stays that way.
Yes, it is. It's a party on the NC State campus this morning. That star player DJ Burns celebrating with fans around 2 o'clock this morning after the teams arrived back on campus. And then at 3 a.m., the women's team got back to Reynolds Coliseum. A big crowd was there to welcome them even at that hour.
Both regional champs and Final Four bound for the men's side for the first time in 4 decades, riding the sweet music of a couple of DJs. DJ Burns had a season-high 29 points. DJ Horn had 20. This was all in that 76-64 win over Duke. So right now that makes it 9 straight games the Wolfpack have faced elimination, and they won each time. The nation sees this Cinderella story called Wolfpack contenders, though, as they move on. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey was there as a huge celebration took place on campus for both the men and women as those teams came back home after their big wins.
NC State fans are still celebrating this historic moment. This marks the first time both the men's and women's teams have made the Final Four in the same year. Take a look at this video when fans welcome the men's team back home after they beat Duke in Dallas. This marks the first time the Wolfpack has made it to the Final Four since the men's 1983 championship run.
Why not us? Why not us?
Zach Edey ain't got nothing on DJ Burns.
Future Final Four, baby, let's go!
Just, it's so much fun doing it with you guys, okay? The fans, everybody makes it so exciting here. Thank you so much for coming out and doing this. So proud of those young ladies, okay?
That was head coach of the women's team, Wes Moore. The women took care of business too last night in Portland. Fans welcomed them back to campus after they beat the Texas Longhorns. We will be anxiously awaiting as both teams will play in the Final Four later this week. The men will play on Saturday night and the women will play on Friday. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Raleigh.
Yeah, the NC State's women are going to the Final Four for just the second time ever. It's the first time NC State has both teams advancing to the Final Four in the same year. They knocked off top-seeded Texas in the Elite Eight yesterday in Portland, Oregon, and now they're on their way to just the Final Four for the first time since 1998 and trying to get their first ever championship.
Well, I'm just so proud of these young ladies. Again, it's a long season. We had a little stretch. February, we lost a couple of road games, and I think everybody thought we were going to fall apart or whatever. And these players just kept working, stuck together.
And the Wolfpack will play top overall seed South Carolina in the women's Final Four. That's happening in Cleveland. That game will be on Friday with the winner advancing to the national championship game. And WRAL's Brett Neese will be there following all the action.
And on the men's side of things, Final Four matchup, NC State and Purdue. Saturday, 6:09 tip-off. WRAL's Casey Hintz and Pat Welter will be in Phoenix providing live coverage starting Wednesday.
And we're following some breaking news right now. A person is in the hospital after a shooting in Roanoke Rapids. Police say it happened near Hamilton Street and East 3rd Street around 8:30 last night. The person who was shot was taken to the hospital. Police have not said what led up to that shooting or if anyone is in custody.
Robinson County man is expected in court today facing several charges, including kidnapping. This comes after a 2-year-old at the center of Sunday morning's Amber Alerts was found safe. 36-year-old Earl Locklear is being held in jail with no bond. His charges include kidnapping, larceny of a motor vehicle, and resisting an officer. It appears the little boy is back home now with family. A relative posted this video on Facebook showing the 2-year-old in a vehicle with the caption, "He is safe."
A major road closure starts today in Johnston County. It'll make the trip to school longer for some students when they return from spring break next week. And work starts this morning on the Buffalo Creek Bridge along Covered Bridge Road. The road is expected to be closed in both directions through October 28th. Johnston County Schools warns that bus routes for several schools in that area could be delayed to up to 40 minutes.
Big changes on the campus of St. Augustine's University. Starting today, all classes are virtual. Students who are living on campus have until Wednesday to move out. WRAL's Laura Levine explains this is all happening as the school is facing a financial crisis and the risk of losing its accreditation.
Students here at St. Aug began this semester remote for the first 2 weeks as the campus made some repairs, and now here we are again. This is now how they're ending it. Starting today, classes are going back online. Many students I spoke with are disappointed the university is forced to move remote, especially seniors who are graduating in May. Some alumni and community members held a final send-off for students before the Easter weekend. These measures come as the university fights to maintain its accreditation due to a significant debt burden. St. Aug is facing some hard financial challenges, and leaders say they are fighting to keep the doors open. Senior Kayla James tells me this is not how she pictured her final weeks of college to go.
It's still hard because it's like, this is supposed to be our senior year. It's supposed to be smooth sailing. Everything goes according to plan. Get our classes done, we graduate, and we move on with our lives. But now it's like this whole thing is like disrupting everything.
Students who live here on campus were asked to move out by the latest Wednesday. However, there are some exceptions for those international students as well as college athletes. They are allowed to stay. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Raleigh.
And cleanup efforts are still underway in Baltimore, leading to questions about bridge infrastructure across the country. After the break, the staggering number of bridges in poor condition and how that affects local economies.
NC State beat Duke last night for a chance to play in the Final Four. Chris Lee breaks down the driving force from that game and what the road ahead looks like for the Wolfpack. That's coming up.
And we'll see variably cloudy skies today. And then this evening, we have the chance in our northern counties of a little bit of severe weather. I'll show you the timeline coming up.
Welcome back on your Monday morning. This is a live look at Fenton and Cary. You can see the sun trying to peek through there. You're watching WRAL News, available on Hulu and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Another really, really seasonably warm day for our Monday. Highs getting back into the 80s again. But later on tonight, Elizabeth, we do have the chance for some storms.
We do. And we're still going to hold on to the warm temperatures on Tuesday as well. And then we're going to transition back to even colder than normal temperatures. So, that is normal spring for us, to ride that big temperature roller coaster. And boy, that's definitely what we're going to see this week. Take a live look at Goldsboro and Apex. A little bit of blue sky trying to show through some of the high, thin cloud cover. Chapel Hill, courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant in Fayetteville there on Hay Street, our newsroom. Our northern counties are under a level 1 risk for severe storms. Models are really showing that mainly in the northeast. So around Roanoke Rapids, Halifax County, Northampton County, most likely Mecklenburg County, Virginia, maybe Warren County as well. So this is where we could see some isolated wind damage, some brief heavy rain, and the potential for some hail as well. Here's a look at satellite and radar. Widen out the view. We have this boundary, this warm front that's been sitting here for a couple of days, and along this boundary, we've seen some storms. We saw that yesterday evening in this same spot in northeastern North Carolina. Same thing again today. And then we're going to see that moving closer to us and bringing us some chances for some light showers on Tuesday, and then a cold front comes through on Wednesday. So a little bit of a more active period for us as we kick off this week. This is 8 p.m. and that boundary is still to our north, but between 10 and midnight, we may see some scattered storms, some South Hill down to north of Rocky Mount, definitely Roanoke Rapids area, and one or two of those could produce some wind damage. Tuesday, 6 a.m., everything is quiet. We're going to see partly cloudy skies Tuesday, but during the evening, there could be a few light showers in our northern counties. Then the cold front comes through Tuesday night into Wednesday, and so Wednesday morning is likely to be wet. This is 6 a.m. Some scattered showers, possible thunderstorms even in the morning up through lunchtime. And then once we get past lunchtime, all of that sweeps eastward along with the cold front, and then the cold air rolls on in. On Wednesday with that cold front, we also have a level 1 risk for severe storms, some isolated wind damage, heavy rain, and some potential for some hail. Likely to have the heaviest rain, which is even not that much over the next couple of days. In our northeastern counties, about half an inch, and the rest of the viewing area maybe as much as a quarter of an inch. Right now, it just doesn't look terribly heavy. 20% chance today, 30 tomorrow, 60% on Wednesday when the front comes through. Once this all moves by, it's going to be much cooler, but bright and sunny. Pretty weather for the Dreamville Festival, but not like we saw this weekend. It's going to be cool, 60 on Saturday and 66 degrees on Sunday. Probably folks would rather have it sunny and cool than rainy and warm. So we'll see lots of sunshine. Some chilly mornings, though. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning, temperatures will be in the 30s again. Brett?
Thanks, Elizabeth. Let's take a look at traffic. 8:16 right now, and we do have a 7-minute delay coming in from US 1 southbound and from Wake Forest. That's improved a little bit over the last few minutes or so. No delay coming in from Knightdale on 87. An earlier crash had delays up to 10-15 minutes, but now that has significantly improved since that crash has been cleared. An earlier crash there near Wade Avenue and I-40. A lot of green there as well, as that has now since cleared, which is really good news. Only delay that I'm really seeing is on the southern side of Raleigh, right there as you approach US 1 40 westbound there. That's a normal spot that we kind of see a little bit of a backup, but nothing too major. Want to give you this live camera from 440, the Beltline at Lake Boone Trail. A few cars out there on the Beltline, but the Beltline's looking good in both directions so far this morning on a Monday morning after Easter. And then over in Durham, we're not seeing any delays on any of our major routes either right now. Continue to keep you updated.
New this morning in the WRAL Live Center, Vice President Kamala Harris will be campaigning in Charlotte on Thursday. It was about a week ago she and President Joe Biden came to Raleigh to speak about health care and women's reproductive rights. Harris will use Thursday's visit to discuss the climate crisis and the fight for environmental justice. EPA advisor Michael Regan will be joining Harris in the Queen City. The Charlotte visit will mark Harris's 4th visit to North Carolina this year, with our state being a battleground state in November.
Thanks, Renee. Crews in Baltimore continue the complicated cleanup process after last week's deadly bridge collapse. Many are concerned about the possible impacts to the local economy.
Yes, Sue Guzman has the latest on those efforts, those recovery efforts. Plus, a look at how the closings of other bridges across the nation is creating long-term struggles for those communities.
The intense cleanup process presses on in Baltimore following last week's deadly accident when a massive cargo ship lost power and plowed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, sending it crashing into the waves below.
The north sections of the Key Bridge are going to be cut up. This will eventually allow us to open up a temporary restricted channel that will help us to get more vessels in the water around the site of the collapse.
As crews slice pieces of sharp metal, cranes are waiting to lift debris onto barges so it can be floated away. The goal is to eventually free the ship from the wreckage so it can also be floated off to clear the busy port.
The hull of the dolly is damaged but intact.
But as recovery continues in Maryland, the accident is shining light on the state of other bridges around the country.
We have not maintained our infrastructure.
While the National Transportation Safety Board reports the Francis Scott Key Bridge was in satisfactory condition prior to the incident, data from the federal government reveals more than 42,000 bridges across the U.S. are in poor condition.
1 in 3 bridges across the United States need some sort of repair or reconstruction work.
Because it takes a lot of time and money to investigate, repair, and rebuild, some older bridges remain closed. Impacted communities citing mounting economic and safety concerns when vital bridges stay closed for years. Besides throwing off supply chain routes for trucks, shuttered bridges can also impact emergency vehicles' response times. Small business owners also say it keeps drivers from visiting areas without bridge access.
There's not enough people coming through the area.
And that was Sue Guzman reporting. Former Detroit Lions player Cameron Sutton has been arrested in connection with an assault on a woman in Florida. The veteran cornerback turned himself in yesterday after deputies spent weeks searching for him in connection with a domestic violence incident that happened in his home. Officials say that he allegedly choked a woman. He is charged with domestic battery by strangulation. Sutton was released from the team 2 weeks ago.
NC State men's basketball is going to the Final Four for the first time in more than 40 years. WRAL's Chris Lee is in Dallas, where the breakout star of the tournament led the way for the Wolfpack in their win over Duke.
We're bearing witness to one of the greatest college basketball stories since 1983. That's when the Wolfpack last won a national title. But this year's team may have even more magic than that 83 team, as they're now headed to the Final Four. The lead magician is DJ Burns. The big man only scored 4 points in the win versus Marquette Friday, but against Duke in the Elite Eight, he poured in 29 points on 68% shooting, 21 of those in the second half.
I've seen that a lot every single day in practice, guarding it, so it's amazing to see him doing it to someone else and dominating like that, man. I love it.
Again, like my coach said, in March you have a clean slate, and we've been taking advantage of every single moment.
Now NC State makes their first Final Four since they won it all in 1983, while eliminating a Duke Blue Devils team whose campus is only 23 miles from theirs. Even though Duke's season is over, the Blue Devils couldn't help but to give DJ Burns love on his game.
I don't know if he's like an NBA player or anything like that, but he's just one of the most unique, special players I've ever played against. So props to him.
I told him to go win it all. I told him to that he should be proud of himself. I'm proud of him for how much he's accomplished in these last couple months. Even when he beats you, you can't hate him.
And we've beat it into your head ad nauseum. This team has won 9 games in 20 days. NC State wasn't even going to make it to the big dance, but thanks to a great ACC tournament turnout 2 weeks ago, and now a great tournament run for the last 2 weekends, they're now headed to Phoenix, 2 wins away from a potential national title. Chris Lee, WRAL Sports, Dallas.
It is a great time to be an NC State sports fan. Wild celebrations took place on and off campus, as well as at bars after that historic night for Wolfpack basketball. At the NC State Bell Tower and across the community at sports bars and across the Triangle, fans went wild as the Wolfpack knocked off Duke. As the teams played each other hundreds of miles away in Dallas, fans from both sides gathered to watch the game.
It felt good to feel my friend lose.
We're the only double number seed left, and we are the team that has come that far. We are the story.
And students on NC State's campus poured out onto Hillsborough Street after that win. They ran to the bell tower to celebrate the team's Final Four berth together. So cool to see.
They are the story, no doubt. Meantime, classes at St. Aug are going virtual today for the rest of the semester. Coming up, why some students say they're disappointed they're ending the semester exactly how they started.
As you get into your car, tune to WRAL News Plus on your radio. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM. In Durham, 96.5 FM. And everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
Good morning and happy Monday. Time now is 8:26. I'm Michelle McConaughey, looking at another pretty 80-something degree day, but some of us could see some storms later on this evening. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner times it out for us.
Yeah, right along the Virginia line, we have a level 1 risk for severe storms. Timeline for that is going to be late evening up until around midnight, and best chance of seeing those is going to be over around the Roanoke Rapids area, where they were last night and the last a couple of nights. Damaging winds, some brief heavy rain and hail are all possible along this warm frontal boundary. It's going to sink southward into northeastern North Carolina and help to bring us that chance of storms. In the meantime, we do have a good bit of cloud cover out there, some high thin clouds around for today. It will still be warm though, mid-70s at lunchtime, mid-80s this afternoon. Even walking the dog at 7 o'clock, it'll still be 81, Brett.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Let's take a look at traffic. Pretty easy going here on an Easter Monday. Not a lot happening out there on the road, which is good news. We had a couple of earlier crashes that caused some big backups, but those have since cleared. A couple of those icons that you see there are minor in nature, which is good news. Around the Triangle, or around Raleigh, all of our major routes delay-free pretty much across the board. 7 minutes coming in from US 1 southbound in Wake Forest. That's a normal amount of time that we usually quote you for if you're coming in because of all those stoplights along US 1. Over in Durham, same thing, delay-free on all of our major routes right now. I'm going to continue to keep an eye on that, Michelle.
Thanks, Brett. It was a big celebration across NC State's campus. Both the men's and women's teams have made the Final Four in the same year for the first time. The women beat the Texas Longhorns yesterday, and this is the men's first time in the Final Four since 1983 and the women's first since 1998. Next on Fox 50, preparations are underway for Dreamville happening this weekend. And up next on Today, the Philadelphia Eagles kick off World Autism Month on the Plaza.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
And every good party needs a DJ, right? NC State star DJ Burns celebrating with fans after the team arrived back on campus this morning. The celebrations for both the men's and women's teams just off the hook as they punched their tickets to the Final Four.
Looked like a lot of fun. All right, our severe weather threat this evening is going to be in our northern counties. I'll show you the timeline and who's most likely to be affected.
We won't see a lot of activity here on St. Augustine's University, and that's because students have been asked to move out and classes are now online starting today. Just ahead, we hear from students concerned and disappointed about the financial challenges the university is facing.
We welcome you in on your Monday, start of a brand new month. Happy April. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle McConaughey.
And I'm Jeff Hogan. Yeah, thanks for making us part of your early Monday morning as we get things rolling here. The bell tower was lit up all night. It was
cool.
A beautiful sight. Fans times two, men's and women's.
Yeah.
A lot to talk about here today. Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now. And this kind of severe risk crept into our picture early this morning.
It did. And so it's likely to be north and east around the Roanoke Rapids area in particular is where we have the best chance of seeing some damaging winds, some brief heavy rain and some hail. But we could see some of that stretching across the Virginia line. What's happening is we have this warm front that's up to the north, and we do have some scattered thunderstorms along that. It's going to dip southward into northeastern North Carolina and help to bring us, Trying not to sneeze. It's going to bring us that chance of some thunderstorms. We'll move it through the day today, and we'll see a mix of sun and clouds, and then watch that line of thunderstorms starting to develop, and then it drops in on us fairly late in the evening between, say, 10 and midnight. Again, mainly in our northeastern counties, but it could stretch back over towards South Hill and really anywhere along that Virginia line. Again, that should move in and out pretty quickly. And in the meantime, we're going to be dealing with some sunshine trying to peek through some cloud cover as we see that next system getting closer and closer to us, especially for tomorrow and Wednesday. 61 degrees in the Triangle. We have a southwest wind at around 5 miles per hour. Still a little cool up near the Virginia line where that boundary has been. It's shifted a little farther to the north, but definitely looking at some cooler temperatures there. Elsewhere, looking at low to mid 60s. It's a warm start this morning and a warm afternoon too. Mid 70s at lunchtime. We'll be in the mid 80s. Tomorrow we'll be in the 80s, but I'll show you the quick transition to much colder temperatures later in the week coming up. Brett?
Thanks, Elizabeth. Let's take a look at traffic. I'm Brett Neeson for Brian Schrader. 8:32 here on your Monday morning. If you got to go to work today, we have good news out there on the roads. A lot of green on our map right now. If you see the Beltline looking good, 540 looking good as well. A couple of minor crashes out there, but nothing that's causing any major backups. I want to give you this delay board here. Just 3-minute delay if you're taking 40 westbound trying to get over to US 1. Not seeing any big backups there that we normally see along Avon Ferry Road, Trailwood Drive, those parts of 40 westbound. Not seeing those big backups that we sometimes see this time of morning. The Durham Freeway also looking good. It's looked good all morning long. Delay free in both directions right now.
Thanks, Brett. And while you were sleeping, 2 big celebrations were happening on NC State's campus. Huge crowds of fans gathered to welcome the men's and women's basketball teams back after they both clinched spots in the Final Four. The men got back around 1:45 this morning. The women got back about 3. Even at those hours, hundreds of fans were there to celebrate with them and welcome them back. It is the first time both the men and women have made it to the Final Four in the same season.
Professors, have mercy on campus today. NC State, the men lost their last 4 games of the regular season, but since then they have just crashed the party. The ACC tournament party, and now they've turned the big dance into their own personal party with DJs and everything. DJ Burns, a season high 29 points. DJ Horn had 20. This was all in that 76-64 win over Duke, straight out of the Jim Valvano playbook from the early 80s and straight into the Final Four for the Wolfpack. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey was there and has a huge celebration on campus for both the men and women as those teams came back home after the big win.
NC State fans are still celebrating this historic moment. This marks the first time both the men's and women's teams have made the Final Four in the same year. Take a look at this video when fans welcome the men's team back home after they beat Duke in Dallas. This marks the first time the Wolfpack has made it to the Final Four since the men's 1983 championship run.
Why not us? Why not us?
Zach Edey ain't got nothing on DJ Burns.
Future Final Four, baby, let's go!
It's so much fun doing it with you guys, okay? The fans, everybody makes it so exciting here. Thank you so much for coming out and doing this. So proud of those young ladies, okay?
That was head coach of the women's team, Wes Moore. The women took care of business too last night in Portland. Fans welcomed them back to campus after they beat the Texas Longhorns. We will be anxiously awaiting as both teams will play in the Final Four later this week. The men will play on Saturday night and the women will play on Friday. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Raleigh.
Oh, and the heart and soul of the NC State men's run to the Final Four has been DJ Burns. The big man has become a fan favorite across the country through his powerful play and his infectious energy. Look at him. He's so cool. After the game, even Duke's players showed their love for Burns.
I don't know if he's like an NBA player or anything like that, but he's just one of the most unique, special players I've ever played against. So props to him.
Who said in March you have a clean slate, and we've been taking advantage of every single moment.
Since that tournament started, Burns' newfound star power has earned him a half-dozen NIL deals, including from TurboTax, Raising Cane's, and 76 gas stations. They all want him.
Hey, good for him.
Yeah.
Cashing in. He's a likable fellow. There's no doubt. And these are the moments. NC State's women headed back to the Final Four for the first time since 1998. It's the first time ever both men and women are going to the Final Four together. And they knocked off top-seeded Texas in the Elite Eight yesterday in Portland, Oregon. Coach Wes Moore says he can't help but think about the team's history, including the first coach who led them this far.
You know, I think of Kay Yao, 34 years at NC State, and took this program to a Final Four in '98. I think of the players 2 years ago that were a double overtime game away from being in this same exact spot. So I think of them.
Yeah, they're here now. The Wolfpack will play the top overall seed, South Carolina, in the women's Final Four. That happens in Cleveland Friday. The winner advances to the national title game. WRAL's Brett Neese will be there following all the action for us.
And as for the men's Final Four matchup, NC State will play Purdue on Saturday at 6:09. WRAL's Casey Hintz and Pat Welter will be in Phoenix and provide live coverage starting on Wednesday.
Other important news we're following for you today. Students at St. Augustine's University will be moving to remote classes, and that is not all that's changing. They'll need to move off campus by Wednesday. WRAL's Laura Levine shares it's been a tough year for students and staff at the school.
Students here at St. Aug began this semester remote for the first 2 weeks as the campus made some repairs, and now here we are again. This is now how they're ending it. Starting today, classes are going back online. Many students I spoke with are disappointed the university is forced to move remote, especially seniors who are graduating in May. Some alumni and community members held a final send-off for students before the Easter weekend. These measures come as the university fights to maintain its accreditation due to a significant debt burden. St. Aug is facing some hard financial challenges, and leaders say they are fighting to keep the doors open. Senior Kayla James tells me this is not how she pictured her final weeks of college to go.
It's still hard because it's like, this is supposed to be our senior year. It's supposed to be smooth sailing. Everything goes according to plan. We get our classes done, we graduate, and we move on with our lives. But now it's like this whole thing is like disrupting everything.
Students who live here on campus were asked to move out by the latest Wednesday. However, there are some exceptions for those international students as well as college athletes. They are allowed to stay. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Raleigh.
Well, April is here, and that means Dreamville Festival Week is also here. If you pass by Dix Park, you may notice some work happening on park grounds. There are several events leading up to the big weekend. The City of Raleigh's Big Idea Series is hosting City Vibes on Friday in Moore Square, and they hope to show visitors what else the city has to offer.
They're very serious about listening to the public and what they want. And the public has wanted arts and entertainment, and they want the ambiance that downtown Raleigh brings.
And the City Vibes event is on Friday from 5 to 9 p.m. It's free, featuring local musicians and artists, and Dreamville itself, that starts on Saturday. There are still tickets left for Dreamville, and to learn more about events this week or what you can or cannot bring to the festival, you can head to WRAL.com.
Big Powerball grand prize is up for grabs tonight. Jackpot is inching its way to $1 billion. It's estimated to be $975 million with a cash value of $472 million. It is now the 5th largest Powerball drawing and the 11th largest jackpot in U.S. history, coming just after that $1 billion Mega Millions jackpot was won last week. You can watch the next Powerball drawing live tonight on WRAL at 11.
Beyonce's latest album, already a hit. Coming up, the records Cowboy Carter is breaking a few days after its release.
And some controversy on the court at the NC State women's basketball games. What coaches and fans noticed was wrong with that court, despite deciding to play. Sunshine, a bit of clouds over Sanford gives it a beautiful look here at 8:44 on your Monday morning. It's going to be a gorgeous day on the way. And Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Those temps will be up, but also the severe weather risk to our north.
Yes, so we're going to be talking about that. It looks most likely that our northeastern counties will be affected. We have a warm front that's going to be dropping in and kind of dipping into northeastern North Carolina. So the farther north and east you are, especially say Roanoke Rapids, you'll be at a little bigger risk to see some isolated wind damage, some brief heavy rain, or a little bit of hail. We take a look at the big picture and you can see here's our warm front. That warm front's going to be dipping down to the south. We're going to see the cold front eventually sweeping through and bringing us a good chance for some scattered showers and thunderstorms by Wednesday. So we're starting to move into this more unsettled pattern starting today. So here's at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and you can see a little bit of cloud cover. We're seeing some clouds out there on and off right now. By the time we get to, say, midnight or so, we start to see some of those showers and thunderstorms again in our northeastern counties, up around Warren County, Halifax, Northampton, Mecklenburg County, Virginia. That's where we'd have the best chance of seeing any showers or thunderstorms. And then on Tuesday, we'll see mostly cloudy skies, maybe a little sunshine on and off. And during the evening, there could be just a sprinkle or two that comes through. That chance increases as we get closer to midnight. And then Wednesday morning's probably going to be wet. Could even be a few morning thunderstorms. Here's a look at 10 o'clock Wednesday morning. We'll have a few bands that come through that could produce some thunderstorms. And then by about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, it's all out of here. But Wednesday, we also have that chance of some severe storms, the possibility of isolated wind damage, some brief heavy rain, and some hail. All possible, especially in our eastern counties. Right now, temperatures are in the 50s in the north, low to mid 60s in the rest of our counties. Still a nice warm afternoon for us. 85 in Raleigh, 84 in Durham, and 86 in Fayetteville for today. Durham Bulls home opener, mostly cloudy, windy, and warm. Couldn't rule out a quick shower that would roll through, but most of that should be north of Durham tomorrow evening. And then, of course, it really picks up for us on Wednesday. Warm temperatures, 68's our normal high, 85 today, 86 on Tuesday. Today's record is 89 and tomorrow's is 90, so we're just going to miss those records. And then we really cool off. It's going to be pretty chilly, especially coming from 80s all the way down into the upper 50s and low 60s. And check out the overnight lows. Our normal low is 44. We're in the 30s on Friday and Saturday morning, as well as Sunday morning. So I have to pull out the winter coats again. Real weather whiplash. We will be dry starting Thursday all the way through Dreamville weekend in Raleigh. We'll see plenty of sunshine, but it'll be cool with highs in the low to mid 60s.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Millions of people across the country are under severe weather threats today, and that includes in Southern California, where heavy rain caused part of the scenic Pacific Coast Highway to collapse. The highway was closed for miles in both directions. The rain also caused flooding that left drivers stranded. At least 8 people needed to be rescued there.
One person is dead. 5 others are hurt after shooting at a restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee. Police say the shooter opened fire during Sunday brunch around 3 o'clock. Police say the 5 people who were wounded are expected to survive, and investigators say the shooter got in a fight with a man in that restaurant and then started opening fire. Police are searching for that person, and they say he drove away in an SUV.
Roaches, broken elevators, backed up sewage. WRAL Investigates found a Durham apartment complex had more than 180 violations noted by the city in just 1 year.
Not only me, we all in this building deserves better.
Tonight at 6, Sarah Kruger details what she uncovered through records, requests, and how tenants are continuing their fight for better conditions.
This morning, we'll learn more about safety on Go Durham buses this past year. The City of Durham Transportation Department is presenting its annual report to county commissioners. The report for the 2023 fiscal year also focuses on fare-free transit, electric buses, ridership trends, as well as safety. The report presentation is happening at the Durham County Board of Commissioners work sessions starting at 9 a.m.
A group of people gathered in downtown Smithfield to raise awareness about transgender issues. They participated in International Transgender Day of Visibility yesterday. Participants spoke and listened outside the Johnston County Courthouse.
Unfortunately, in many rooms, we're being ignored, and we feel strongly that it's time that we listen to many of the younger members of our community and some trans leaders in our community.
And after the speeches, participants followed youth LGBTQ+ leaders for a march around the courthouse block.
American Airlines is relaxing its pet policy. The airline will now let people carry one full-sized carry-on luggage as well as a companion pet into plane cabins. Additional bags will need to be checked. Prior to the change, people could only bring a small carry-on that fit under the seat, and their pets were only allowed on board if they paid a $150 fee.
Starting today, fast food workers in California will be paid at least $20 an hour. A new law kicks in today that raises the minimum wage for those workers from $16 an hour to $20. Some restaurant owners say they'll struggle to pay employees that much. The law applies to restaurants that are part of a national chain with at least 60 establishments that have little or no table service. In comparison, North Carolina's minimum wage is $7.25. Beyonce's country album already breaking records. Cowboy Carter is Spotify's most streamed album in a single day so far this year. On Amazon Music, it earned the most first-day streams for a country album by a female artist in the platform's history. It also earned more first-day streams globally than her previous work.
12th annual star-studded iHeartRadio Music Awards airs live tonight on Fox. Ashley Dvorkin previews the big night.
This is incredible. It's time for the iHeartRadio Music Awards, celebrating the most played artists and songs on iHeart's radio stations and app from last year, and previewing tunes of 2024. Taylor Swift leads the way with 9 nominations. Beyoncé will receive the Innovator Award, and the Icon recipient is Cher. Performers include Justin Timberlake, Green Day, TLC, Jelly Roll, Lainey Wilson, Tate McRae, and the night's host, Ludacris.
I want all the fan favorites to show up and show out. And I just want everybody to have a good time. You know, this is my first time hosting the iHeart Radio Awards. And I'm excited to see a lot of the individuals. And I can't wait to just see everyone kind of co-mingling backstage. That's really where the magic is at.
Does it differ for you at all when you're performing and the audience is full of friends and fellow artists?
You know, that's crazy that you say that. It is dope. But I think coming off of this Super Bowl performance, it makes it even better because I don't know, that's a huge audience, but this right here is like you're amongst your peers. So it is a little bit different.
And you started in radio. So can you tell me about the first time you heard your music on the radio, how you made that happen, and kind of what you took from that?
Yeah, I remember being on the radio station and my competitor played my actual song. That's when I knew I made it, because you're not supposed to do that in radio. Like the people that's on the same time slot as you. And then from there on out, I was like, finally, after all these years, it's paid off. And I knew that we were on to making greatness in history.
Thank you, iHeart.
This is Ashley Dvorkin reporting. You can watch the iHeartRadio Music Awards tonight at 8 right here on Fox 50.
Well, it's a great time to be an NC State sports fans. Wild celebrations took place on and off campus after a historic night for Wolfpack basketball. At the NC State Bell Tower and at sports bars across the Triangle, fans went wild as the Wolfpack knocked off Duke. As the teams played each other hundreds of miles away in Dallas, fans from both sides gathered to watch the game. NC State fans had a lot to cheer about when it was all over.
And I say, go Pack. We are back, and yes, we are them.
Hey, Duke next year. Y'all got next year. We represent the ACC right now. That's all that matters.
See, they can get along. Students on NC State's campus poured out onto Hillsborough Street after the win. They ran to the Bell Tower to celebrate the team's Final Four berth together.
The last 2 spots on the women's side of the Final Four will be decided tonight. One of those will come down to a game between Iowa and LSU. It's a rematch from last year's national championship game. It brings together 2 of women's basketball's biggest stars, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. The winner of that game will play the winner of a game between USC and UConn.
And there was some controversy on the court as the NC State women moved on to the Final Four, but neither teams were at fault. Before the game, coaches noticed the 3-point lines on the court in Portland. They didn't match. One was farther away from the basket than the other, and fans watching the game from home couldn't believe it as officials used different methods to try and measure the difference. But ultimately, both coaches agreed to play, and the game went on.
Well, each get a crack at it at either end, right? Before we head off to break, the winning lottery numbers on your screen right now. We'll get another check on weather and traffic for you coming up next.